change in the fundraising sector has never been greater. But innovations in technology are evolving faster than our ability to understand them. Are these advances good or bad? Do they have unintended consequences? And what is the application to the global fundraising sector? That's what we're here to find out. Welcome to the Fundraising AI podcast, your up-to-date resource for responsible AI for the global fundraising community, hosted by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz.
All right, we're back for another episode of the Fundraising AI podcast. Scott and I just did our stretches and our
hype up.
We're hyped.
Yeah.
Are we hyped?
We're here.
All right, we got our energy. I've got my Celsius. I don't know. You got water. That's not gonna
I
help.
got water. I'll fake it till I make it.
I'm in a midday caffeine refuel.
It's thunderstorming outside, so that doesn't help.
I don't know. I love it. The energy, it's coming down.
It makes me want to. Otherwise, it would make me want to get into a bed.
Take a nap.
Yeah.
All right, we're not going to do that. I'm Nathan Chappell. I'm here with Scott Rosenkrantz. We're here for another episode of the Fundraising AI podcast. We have so much to talk about. We took, I think, 2 weeks off. Actually, I did an interview with Jason Van Loo from Virtuous, but you were off gallivanting around the world, having a good old time. You're back. You're probably still a little jet lagged, and that's probably why
A little.
you want to crawl into the bed right now. But we're not going to do that. Had a great time. So you had a great time with your family?
Yeah, awesome. Planning the next trip. We'll be attending the conference next year again, probably.
Yeah,
right? Making this
a plan every year.
Regular thing. Seeing how they progress and reporting on what's changed in AI a year from now.
I mean, I think I brought enough cheese home to last me a year. So I'm like, by the end of next year, I'm like, I've got to refuel.
We said we did not bring enough cheese home.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, there's probably never enough cheese.
Probably.
So I'm like, no matter how much cheese, like, I got an extra suitcase and we just loaded that thing up.
Well, we didn't plan accordingly.
Yeah. So we learned last year that we ended up having to buy a suitcase in Geneva, and that was mostly for the chocolate. But then this year we brought an extra suitcase that expanded. So all that to say, we're back. We're ready. There's a lot that's happened in the world of AI. So let's just dive in.
Yeah.
Ready?
Cool. Do it.
All right. So I think just on let's start on the softer things and then we'll go to the technical things. Because there's like a lot of advances that have happened, but we don't want to scare people at the beginning and then lose them. They're going to tune out. So going to where we're at today. So we're actually at the Gaylord Hotel in DC, National Harbor for the Bridge Conference. Bridge Conference, for those that don't know, is really the biggest annual gathering of people in the fundraising sector related to direct response, annual giving, that whole thing. So it's everything from direct mail vendors to tech companies to data providers. And it's just like, it's a whole different world than the typical fundraising, quote unquote, conferences that we go to.
Yep.
But each year for the last 3 years, 3 years ago, they started a sub-conference, like a sidecar conference pre-conference called Bridge Tech. And the focus is on the technology side of direct response, which I always found ironic and horrifying that we had to separate technology from annual giving, because I'm like, what are we doing otherwise? Are you serious? Like, we're spending like gazillions of dollars sending mail that is not related to technology. So why do we? So anyway, I'm not going to get into that.
Guessing. 3
Right.
days of guessing.
So I guess it's a more isolated one day of technology related to. And so yesterday I was able to deliver not the opening keynote. Chiri and Koshi did the opening keynote. I did the lunch, and it was a lot of fun. And then what we did for the third year in a row is that we hosted a fundraising AI breakfast for all the people, open call. Anybody that is at the conference or lives near DC, National Harbor area could come. And we have these like small intimate gatherings. We've done this at AFP Icon and some other conferences where we just kind of tag along, and we call it the hazing because we always have these at 7:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And we always have them at 7:30 because we don't want to overlap, and pull people out of sessions, take away from the conference, because a lot of people spend a lot of money and also, just there's a lot of people presenting. So the hazing was great. Like Nonprofit Pro hosted the room for us with food and stuff. And it seems weird just talking about this. It seems weird that every year we have a different size room. We never know what we're getting because like somebody hosts it for us and we just show up. And every year it's like the exact size room that we need. Yeah. So we had, I don't know, probably 10 tables of 8 to 10. Yeah. And I think every seat was full except for maybe like 2 or 3. And it really,
people walked by and wanted to come in, but they saw it full. So I think that they just kept walking.
Yeah. I actually heard from someone later, like, so I didn't want to walk in, you know? And so I always find these really interesting. So the format of these meetings, and if, anyone listening happens to be near when we do one of these events in the future, definitely come. and meet people who, willing to wake up early in the morning because they care about this topic and they want to meet others that care about the topic. And so general updates about fundraising AI summits coming up September 14th and 15th. It's entirely free. You should sign up today, but you should also send it to everyone in your network and everyone on your team. 2 full days. And I mean, the lineup this year is ridiculous. Like it's really, really, it's like come into its own.
Yeah.
I'm like super stoked about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. And there's all the videos from the previous summits.
Yeah.
So it's all available if you do want to catch up. If you haven't attended the first or the second one, you can go back to fundraising.ai and watch any of the sessions that will be of interest to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that big announcement on the sponsorship level, we actually announced all of our sponsors are going to be going out, but Virtuous actually jumped in as a presenting sponsor with Giving Tuesday. That was huge. So me moving over to Virtuous this year, which is lots of conversations about this, not just being a way to like introduce Virtuous to new people, but do this also because it's a moral imperative as a technology company that's using a lot of AI to support an endeavor like fundraising AI that is not there to advocate for just the blind use of AI, but to advocate for the responsible and beneficial use of AI.
Right. Doing it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
Not just because it's the cool new tech, but because it can actually make a difference.
Yeah. And this morning, we had so many of our sponsors in the room from Salesforce, Amazon, Microsoft, Avid AI, Bonterra. I'm not going to list them all, but they were there and they just showed up. And it was awesome. It led to what we do, just general updates. Kelsey Kramer from Giving Tuesday led us into a conversation, which I thought every year we try to pick one prompt, and then we let 100 people talk about it, and we have people at their own table get into this. And I found this morning's prompt really interesting, different than what we've done before, but I also found the table conversation super interesting. So the prompt was, if everything goes right with AI, what does it look like in 10 years?
Yeah.
Like if we do everything right and it does the things, like what does it look like in 10 years? So I don't want to bias the conversation. I was able to walk around to the different tables and listen in, and then we had each table kind of present back. So I don't know, what initial observations did you have?
I mean, it's interesting because it's an open-ended question, but there's the end result, right? Like in response to the generosity crisis, does that get turned around as a result? But then also, what do nonprofits look like internally? In terms of staffing. So the whole hybridization of not just humans using computers, but augmented humans with AI, like AI staff, right? Agents being part of it, and that's becoming the norm. Just like the internet's the norm, right? Like you don't set out to use the internet today. It's just part of everything you do.
Yeah. So I will say, and each of these tables is different. We didn't plan. There was no assigned seating. So like people just gravitated to wherever. So there were some tables that were just full of technology providers.
Yeah.
And there were some tables that were a balance. There were some tables that were just nonprofit people. And the conversation differed so much.
Yeah.
And in between. So I had overheard, and then I heard back and feedback on one table that was filled with technology providers of like, why are we really talking about AI adoption? Because everyone's already adopted. Like we're already there. So like, let's just move on. My table actually had a couple of nonprofit professionals, kind of mid-level, like fundraisers and individuals like deep in it. And they were like, literally like, I don't even know, like there's so much fear around AI in my organization. We're not even allowed to use it to write a letter. And so I think there's this assumption from people that are in the private sector that are providing AI tech to nonprofits that like the train left the station a long time ago, like let's just go.
Yeah.
But literally boots on the ground individuals saying, we're at first base.
Yeah.
Like we haven't actually left home plate. Like we're still swinging, we need help to get to first base. And so there's clearly a pretty big disconnect. And I led to some subsequent conversations around like, then what can fundraising AI do to help you get to first base? Like if that's where you're stuck at. And so a lot of it was around kind of demystifying what AI is and isn't, providing some use cases and clear examples of what AI could do that were safe and responsible. And that's, of course, where we point to our book, because it truly is intended. It's, again, not advocating for the use of AI. It's advocating for the responsible and beneficial use of AI. So, yeah, I just find it so interesting. My number one observation, though, I don't know if you had this at all, but I found it fascinating. The overall conversation, each table reports back and they're like, 10 years from now, one is uniformly, each of the 10 tables avoided the conversation. Not one answered directly, what happens if we do this right? What does it look like in 10 years? Not one. What I found, what they did was basically say, well, what they try to do is equate the future in today's terms. They're completely limited by what technology looks like today. So at very best, they were projecting out 12 months from now.
Right.
Because they're limited by what they think AI represents today. But anyone who is deep in AI knows that even 3 years is this exponential curve of like everything is different. Like so many more things are possible. Things that you're not using AI because you have inefficiencies and things cost too much. You're using it because you want to transform the way you work. And so, I mean, I find it, I can't, 10 years is ridiculous, but I find it so interesting how people are grounded by the point of reference of what technology can do and the limits of what technology can do today. And if you only understand 5% of what the technology actually represents today, you're basically thinking in incremental terms.
Right. And also, you mentioned 3 years. ChatGPT isn't even 3 years old yet.
Right.
Right? Like we're coming up on that in a couple minutes, 2.5.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
So 3 years in like yesterday's terms.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, we're going to be talking about this a little bit later, some advancements in AI that have come out, that are coming out in the next couple months. So it's impossible to look 10 years ahead. It's impossible to look 3 years ahead, but what we have has to change. Our structure has to change. Our processes have to change. And people are all over the place. And I think that was kind of like the general theme. Like, to your point, people think that some are much further along and people still haven't even started or stepped into it at all. And we need to get all of them at the same place.
Yeah. And I definitely am more comfortable living in the future than most people. I think a lot of people are like, just have a harder time. Yesterday during the keynote, I had a raise of hands, like, how many of you love change? And it was roughly, I don't remember, like 15% of the room-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe probably not 20%, somewhere around there, actually really like change. And if you don't like change, this can be a very uncomfortable time. But of all the slides in my keynote, the one that I think is the most important is at the very end where it says, assume anything is possible. And then in parentheses underneath, because it is. And so if we don't if we don't understand the moment of what this technology represents in ways that anything that didn't work before, anything that you thought was a best practice, if you thought something was a best practice and that best practice existed before November 30th, 2022, the day that ChatGPT came out, it's an outdated practice. So go back and rethink all those things, but assume anything is possible is like the thing I want to like shake our sector and be just like, don't be constrained by things that you've tried before. Don't be constrained by things that have not worked in the past or that you wouldn't dare imagine because they were too expensive or you can think of it. I go back to Kaz McGrath, our friend Kaz McGrath at Play, who basically is like such an out of the box thinker. She's like, well, when deep research came out, she's the first thing she goes on and she's like, give me a business plan for a nonprofit that raises $1 billion a year with 6 employees or less. Like that is like the type of like, I don't know, insight or just curiosity, like not just like incremental curiosity, but like radical curiosity that our sector needs. I get like really excited about that. At the same time, I recognize it's hard because you're like, well, AI is like the internet. It's actually brought up at my table. It's like AI is like the internet. And it's like, well, we spend too much time thinking that's scary. And I'm like trying not to bias the conversation, but I'm like, AI is nothing like the internet.
Right.
The internet, I mean, I started .com in 1996, 97. The internet operates exactly the same way. Like the TCP IP protocols that send and receive data are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Websites are faster, but it operates exactly the same as it did when it was designed 20 plus years ago. AI, to your point just a minute ago, looks nothing like it did 3 years ago.
Right.
I mean, fundamental difference. And I think a lot of people fail by trying to equate AI to a static technology.
Yeah. And I think, and that's where, because I brought up at the table that it's like electricity and like the internet, but in the fact that it's everywhere all the time.
Yes.
Like
it's
you
ubiquitous
don't
with all things
think
in
about
life,
it, right? You don't say, I need to use electricity today. Like it
Right.
powers everything you do. That's where we need to get to.
Yeah.
And probably are going to get to. What came up in my conversation is what our table is, what is a current barrier in that outside of cultural is the user interface.
Yeah.
That you have to go to ChatGPT, you have to go to this other tool, which also brings in a lot of the whole perspective of I'm cheating because I'm supposed to be in these tools over here on this side, and then I'm going over here on, like under the desk to look at something to see how to do it better or write it better.
Yeah.
And so it comes with this whole guilt and like once that's solved for and is just within and throughout everything you're doing, then it's you kind of get over that hurdle
Right.
on
Yeah.
your own.
And that's a foundational issue, right? That we have to overcome. That's why, in fact, I've stopped doing a lot of technical presentations. I'm like, just go follow Ali K. Miller or take a master class or whatever if you want to learn how to write a better prompt. But we don't change the way we think, we're never going to move forward.
Right.
And so for leaders, you don't create an opportunity for experimentation or call culture of curiosity,
Yeah.
then you're never going to move people past that shadow AI and feeling like they're doing something wrong.
Yep.
Right. And get past that fear and just get into a mindset of like continual adaptive, experimentation that is fueled by this like curiosity of what is possible. And so I think it's always good to be grounded a bit because again, I get so comfortable with thinking about the future that I forget that people are just really trying to equate in their minds of like, well, this is like this. And of course, AI is like electricity in that it's in and through everything, but it's found fundamentally different than any technology humans have ever created because it actually learns on its own. So no electricity operates the same way as it is when it's created. And there's, like a few branches of it and that's it. But AI is this exponential technology that continues to get better. And that's why when ChatGPT came out, it was really great for writing a poem or we all wrote like haikus and like whatever rap songs about our friends or coworkers. But it was pretty kitschy at the time, right? It wasn't great.
It wasn't productive.
Yeah.
It was fun.
But then we get a year ago Notebook LM that comes out and it's like, hey, wait a minute. There's like, you could power boost this thing and like use it in a more human way. And it's shocking to me. In the room yesterday, when I asked how many people have used Notebook LM, like 5 people out of like several hundred.
Yeah.
So if you are listening to this podcast, you still have not experimented Notebook LM, Google it, owned by Google. So it'll be easy to find, show up on the top of your search engine and play with it. Like just create your first podcast of something you don't want to read and it will show you a glimpse of what the future of AI could do, or just it will give you a glimpse of the pace of innovation because that was not even something we could fathom in November of 2022. So I don't know, any other observations from the FAI meeting?
I mean, I just love the group that it is because it is everyone. I mean, what you would look at that group and be like, these are all just competitors, right? They're all going for the same market. They all have sometimes the same product, right? Yeah. But we're all working collaboratively for this sector that we all truly care about, right? So it's an incredible feeling being in that room with those people and talking about how to actually make a change and not just keep doing the same thing the way they've been doing it.
Well, that's a great segue because I just added another bullet point to what we need to talk about because last week, that idea that trust is won or lost at the sector level is something that we've talked about for a while in lack of regulation or government regulation or any kind of regulatory body framework for responsible AI and what you can and cannot do, like the EU AI Act that you and I both had to study too much, was this idea that we thought naively a couple of years ago, maybe not naively, we're just optimistic that by the time we'd be here in 2025, that both the federal government and or regulatory bodies would basically say, hey, here's the basis of what's acceptable and not acceptable. Like you can't use deep fakes to manipulate people, or you have to disclose AI that's used in a certain way when it's actually like consumer facing or something. Biden administration had created a blueprint for responsible AI that got repealed like the first or second week, I can't remember, within like 2 weeks. The Trump administration, we've all been kind of like, it was interesting because I was talking to Shannon McCracken and Amy from the Nonprofit Alliance yesterday. We'd all kind of been in this limbo and no one really knew that a new framework was coming out. And so about a week ago, where I was on a call with Nonprofit Alliance and the Brain Trust, and it was like, hey, by the way, this thing just came out. And like that day, it came out and it's America or the US AI Action Plan. And it's kind of horrifying. I mean, okay, I retract that. It's amazing if you're a tech developer. Like it is like a gift from God.
Yeah.
If you're a tech developer,
if you're trying to make the U.S. like
humanity perspective, it's kind of horrifying.
If you're trying to make U.S. like the AI center of the world,
of course,
right? Like, wonderful.
Yeah, which is clearly the stated goal, right? And so, for people who haven't followed this closely, there is a perceived arms race for whoever can. Basically, the sentiment is that whoever controls AI controls the world, right? And so there's been, whether perceived or real, arms race with US against China. Interestingly enough, like we were just in Geneva and
Yeah.
lots of Chinese companies represented, and they're basically saying, like, I don't know
There's
why the
no arms
US
race.
feels like there's an arms race because we're not in an arms race. That's also, I feel like, part of a rhetoric and a strategy itself of like, you're nuts, but
Yeah.
we're going full bore because
Yeah.
we know that like China just doubled their power, the ability to produce power in the last couple of years, and it's like all full bore. So all that to say is that this new AI action plan basically gives 100% green light for all AI exploration. And essentially we are going to like let all companies do anything they want at pretty much any expense, and any regulatory body or state that interferes with that progress will basically no longer receive federal money. So there's like very strong like sticks with these carrots of like, you better let them go.
Yeah.
And these are even around major issues around like the environment. And so it is what it is. And this is not a political statement, but the sentiment in the US, not just sentiment, but the direction and directive right now is to go as fast as we can at any cost. And then clean up messes if there are messes later on, which is completely the opposite approach from when we were just in Geneva with the EU AI Act, which basically says, like, you can't use their basically classification from a risk perspective that the highest risk AI is essentially illegal. The highest risk is illegal. The second is has to be disclosed and essentially disclosed to the government and basically approved.
Right.
And then
with
there's
like
lower risk
$35
that you
million
can do.
fines. Like
Massive
there
fines.
are penalties for
Right.
this.
Yeah, you're going to AI jail
Yeah.
if you like, start basically like adjusting your insurance rates for an insurance company based on, facial recognition and, social score, whatever it might be. Or police entities that are using it to basically arrest people
Predict
before they
crime.
make a crime.
Yeah, right.
And so we have none of that. And we now have this like full green light. And I think it was our vice president, I can't remember if it was a vice president or a congressman, who made a commentary on the bill, and it was go baby go, or grow baby grow. It was grow baby grow. And I'm like, oh man, field day for all of them, right?
Yeah.
For OpenAI and Anthropic and Microsoft and Amazon. I mean, this is like alleviates all their fears. And I was talking to Shannon McCracken from Nonprofit Alliance, and I said, it's so interesting that 1 year ago, the Brain Trust was meeting because we were so concerned that Biden's blueprint was going to be onerous on nonprofits that we were calling for an exemption that nonprofits would be able to have a carve out so that the regulation that he was proposing wouldn't apply to them or not apply to them in the full extent, because their regulation would have been so onerous that nonprofits would have been tapped out and been like, we can't use AI because like we have to file for all these things and it's regulated at this high level. And we just wouldn't. That is so kind of like just amazing to think that 12 months later, we have literally the opposite effect, where it's like nonprofits now are like, oh my gosh, that's all full bore, but like, I don't even know what to trust anymore.
Yeah, we need something. And again, like it speaks to the conversation we had earlier today and the whole premise of fundraising AI. Like,
right.
We can't, and we haven't been waiting for someone else to do this for us, right? Like we're just coming together to make sure that, okay, screw what everyone else, screw what the government's saying. Let's focus in on like making sure that we're all in alignment on how we're going to do this and do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. So trust will be won or lost at the sector level. So that means healthcare has to establish what's acceptable for healthcare. FinTech has to establish what's available for FinTech, automotive, and so on. And, this morning, kind of in the opening comments at the FAI meeting, it's like, where would our sector be without fundraising AI? Like if we were not the voice right now, hopefully somebody would fill that. But we're only scratching like a tenth of, a 100th% or something. Like we're only scratching the surface with the podcast and our meetings and the summit and all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like the work that we're doing now, and if you are in a place to support fundraising AI because you're a vendor, you're a sponsor, whatever, absolutely do it, because this cause now has become more important and more urgent than ever. And it will be at least for the next 3.5 years or so as we live in this no regulation kind of methodology. So that is pretty interesting. At the same time, we talk about change, this idea that like, if you really love change, it's an exciting time to be alive. If you don't like change, like this is kind of a hard time. So Sam Altman came out 2 weeks ago, I think, and was talking about the new model, which you can talk about in a second. But he says the world's about to change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 50. And I disagree with Sam Altman on a lot of things because, he's a marketer and like sometimes like either fear or hype serve his interests either way. But I'm not in disagreement that we're about to experience as much change in the next 5 years that we will in the next 50. Like all signs point, the progress that AI is making right now and the exponential nature is pointing to this information explosion 2027, and then basically whatever AGI slash whatever powered by quantum in 2033. So I don't know.
Go back 50 years, right? 1975,
Yeah.
right? No mobile phones, no PCs, no social media, no World Wide Web. Like none of that. None of that was even conceivable.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's, the statistic that I shared yesterday in the
information sharing.
the information in how fast information grows. So in the early 1900s, information doubled roughly every 100 years, but by 1950s, information doubled around every 25 years. And now information doubles every 12 hours. I mean, so of course, if you and I are in a constant state of overwhelm, we were just talking about before the podcast, I have like 5 books in my my Audible like queue right now. And I want to read or listen to all of them, but it's just literally sheer amount of time because like content is being produced at this like dizzying rate. And it's like, what do we pick and choose? Or do we just decide to go play with our chickens and, not even mess with it? I am finding myself, by the way, increasingly creating boundaries around technology, like on my own. Like it's really like, it's super healthy. And I just encourage this when people are starting to feel that overwhelm. I've shared this before, but like my room now that I go to, it's like a notebook with a pen and no phone zone and just like doing that. I'm like at airports, I'm not using my phone because it's like, otherwise I'm just going to swipe my life away and not realize there's all these humans around doing these amazing things. Are they happy? Are they sad? And I just get to experience so much human emotion at an airport. Like you get to feel all of the things. Some people are flying to an airport. Some people are coming home from vacation. Some people are going on vacation. And it's just like, it's one of the most fascinating places. Like, you ever go to the mall just to like watch people like back in the day? It's like really interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been what the airport is for me. Like, it's just like this idea of like being connected to like, oh, humanity, we all have these different things. So I don't know, world's going to change a lot. With that, OpenAI, so on the technological issue, had a pretty big release a week ago.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while that agents are coming, right? Like agentic AI, it's going to be here sooner than you think. It is now. ChatGPT does what ChatGPT does and makes something accessible to anyone and everyone at a moment's notice, right?
Yeah.
So now agents are available. It's available for Pro, the Plus, the Enterprise. I don't know if it's available for the free.
It's not free yet.
Yeah.
It will be, though. They're going to release it for free. So explain what agents are a little bit. I still find it's like super, super interesting because you and I use the word agents. We use the word agentic. We've been using agentic for a year and a half, probably.
Yeah.
Like that we probably, if we actually went back to this podcast, in fact, we were looking at adjustments to the framework over a year ago with the word agentic, right? So explain that because I still think when I go to dinner with anyone, I'm like, how many people know what agentic is? And they think I'm speaking Pig Latin. Like I've actually not been to a normal dinner where people actually know what agentic is.
Yeah.
And then talk about what it means for OpenAI.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot of different ways I think there's a lot of discussion around how to define agentic, right? We've even talked about this for the FAI framework, knowing that we need to address it, but like it's hard to describe exactly what it is. But the way I see it is traditional generative AI, everything pre-agentic, is more informational related, right? If you want to create information, if you want to synthesize information, right? If you want to compile information, right? Create a PowerPoint, put together a story, whatever it is. And you can take action in there. So it's not agentic is just action, but agentic is less informational, more task oriented, right? It can go to a website and research something that you want to buy and put it in your shopping cart, and then given credentials, it can purchase it for you, right? It can make reservations for you. You can add something to your calendar. Like it is taking those tasks that don't have much to do with information, but have to do with action itself.
Right. Yeah, we saw the guy who created Multion. So Multion was like, I think one of the first agentic AIs. And I mean, he was like in his 20s, created this thing that basically was able to pass the California driver's test.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually received a driver's license in the mail. And the person that was in front of the computer actually didn't put their hands on the side of the table. And it actually just took all those actions that you're talking about. So really, agentic AI is able to take complex tasks, like multi-step tasks, break it down, create its own AIs to actually take on different aspects of those tasks and then monitor them. Like there's a manager, and the manager watches the the workers, and then it pieces everything back together. It's transformative. I mean, Virtuous, we're like deep in agents right now. It's like literally like if I don't hear agents at least once a day, it's like something's wrong.
I mean, it's kind of like the difference of GPS telling you where to go and autonomous driving actually driving for you.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Right?
Yeah.
The end result is still the same. It's just who's doing it and what can you do while something else is doing it for you.
Yeah, you're always good for a good analogy. That's a good one. I
thought of that one now.
I approve.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, GPS versus autonomous driving. That's really good. So agentic AI is here. OpenAI basically killed probably about 1,000 startups in one day, at least. Probably way more than 1,000. So this is so hard because like a lot of people have asked me, and you too, like over the last couple, it's like, oh, are you going to monetize generative AI? And it's like, no, because it's like if you try to build a product on something that anybody can do, like it will be crushed in a second. And so many people have taken one of 5 large language models, because there's really only about 5, like Copilot, Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, Llama, and whatever I'm missing. But that's like it, right?
Yeah.
And then you try to create like some special wrapping paper around it.
Right.
All of a sudden, OpenAI comes and we're like, well, we're just going to supply the wrapping paper like with ours, with our tool. And that's what they did. And so they crushed literally so many hearts and dreams a week ago with agents. So if you can use now ChatGPT to say, create something that's all these complex tasks and like give me the end result. Now, full disclosure, everyone needs to listen to this, like a huge asterisk and exclamation point. Sam Altman also says, this is going to make a lot of mistakes. It's still in experimentation mode. And as kind of all agents are, and don't put anything confidential in an agent that you don't really understand what it's doing, because now it's much harder to know where the human needs to be in the loop, because at certain points, like an agent could go from A to like Z without any humans, unless you tell it to insert humans at the loop and Q.
Yeah.
And so what you can do, you can say at whatever point, pause, validate what you're doing with me, and then go forward and create those intentional pauses. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah. And also, I think like to have it work, you need to give it access to things. But by giving it access to things, like it's getting access to everything.
I mean, it'd be happy to book your airline ticket on your preference with your seat that you prefer on the aisle and all those things, but you have to give it your credit card.
Right. So, and to book something on your calendar, you have to give it access to your calendar, and not just the weekend that you're trying to book something, but it'll see anything you ever did and anything you plan on doing in the future.
Yeah.
Your email, if it's going to write email, so it is the risk versus the reward. It's what are you willing to give up for convenience versus your privacy and security?
Although, me personally, I just know most people, like if Amazon is any example of this, like we will trade privacy for convenience in spades, right? Because we just don't like clicking the extra button. We want decisions to be made for us, especially as like the world just goes so fast. It's like if you could do these things. The reality is like what you do is be like, hey, you tell it about your preferences of where you'd like to sit on airplanes, if you like to travel in the morning, the afternoon, whatever, and go do this research and, find me the tickets that have the open seats and all this stuff. But when you get to the part of payment, you pause.
Right.
And then that brings the human in the loop. So you're off like writing a note to your grandma, or you're doing whatever at the same time, hopefully something very human.
A note to your grandma.
Hopefully something very human at that time. And then when 10 minutes later, when it's done with all this research, you're like, oh, ding, ding, I'm ready for your credit card. And then you go as a human, you put it in, your, whatever and all that. So very interesting. I think we've not seen anything yet. I saw a company this morning, Current, that is doing some really amazing things with one of our clients at Virtuous, Arkansas Children's Hospital, that created an agentic workflow to identify prospects, to segment those prospects, to put them in a portfolio, to like pretty much manage about the work of several people, and then basically hand to a gift officer, essentially a fully vetted prospect. Yeah. And it's super impressive. And that's like not in the future, that's today.
Right. And I was just about to say, like we often say, if you don't know where to start, you can have AI help you.
Right.
Right. And you can say, this is what I do, this is my role, what are 45 ways I can use agentic AI, right? But then I realized 3 minutes ago, I said, be careful because there's that constant balance.
Yeah.
Right? It's a constant balance of like wanting to try new things and wanting to give you your time back and wanting to get rid of those menial tasks, but also just be aware of what you're giving up. It is a slippery slope. And I gave it access to my email calendar right away and didn't even try agents as much as I should have, right? Yeah. But it was more like, okay, I could do this. Because I know I'm going to try. Yeah.
So
me too. Maybe we're not best leading by example, right? But it's something that each individual, like as you go into it, just be aware. Just be aware.
I mean, we're in the sense of like, yes, like understand, like let Claude have access to my calendar so that I can like make better decisions or things like that. Because like I feel like the risk is very low, you know, for me, but I'm not giving it access to my social security number. I'm not giving it access to my credit cards and things like that. So agents and basically what's considered like an MCP are like vulnerable to be hacked because it's just like compiling lots of data and sending data and receiving it from different sources that you're not involved in. Like I know if I go to a website and I get an alert, like there's suspicious activity with this website, like be careful. You have to click yes. So like if it's just an agent that's doing for you, you're going to miss all those steps and those clues of like, oh, I'm on the wrong website. This is a hack and whatever.
Right.
So
you're going to end up on the dark web.
Yeah. So there's some other like crazy stuff and breakthroughs in AI, but I don't want to talk about those because I feel like we're going to scare people away. There's one article by Pascal or what's his name? I always forget. You know what I'm talking about.
Pascal Bornet?
Yeah, Pascal Bornet. He's a really prolific thought leader in AI. And a lot of people come to him asking about how AI is going to replace jobs. And, you know, and while that often is a topic of conversation, not a lot of people talk about the jobs that AI will create. So why don't we end on a positive note? Next episode, we'll start out with the negative stuff again and then get people leave them on a positive note again. I feel like this could be just a trend.
The sandwich.
Right? Yeah. And then we'll find out people are just fast forwarding the first like 15 minutes of a podcast to get to the good stuff or to the optimistic stuff.
Putting into Notebook LM and say, just tell me the good things and leave out all the rest.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I don't know, like, did you find this interesting? So the jobs that he believes that AI will be created now. So like right now we know that unemployment for computer science majors is around 50%. So like if you just graduate with a computer science degree, which my son has, unemployment is 50% for new grads. Only 1 in 5 found a summer job. But I think there's a new wave of what those computer science majors can do, right? Because they're already technologically inclined. And so, I don't know, you want to read off a couple of them? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so some new roles for AI according to this image. And I think that I don't think he created it. I think he found it, but I don't know what the source is, right? We have things that we've seen before like prompt engineer, but also knowledge engineer, decision engineer, right? Obviously, UX designer comes into play again, like we talked about how ChatGPT, the interface. But architects, data scientists are still going to be a component, but an evolving role. Model manager, model validator, analytics engineer, AI risk and governance specialist. Obviously, that's an exciting one to see. Like that's going to a significant need that we're going to have, but no designated roles that we're seeing all things coming up like that. We've often talked about AI strategy leads, right? The counterpart to the governance is what do we do, right? The governance is how do we do it securely? Head of AI. So AI ethicist, that's an exciting one to see as well. And this is just where we are today, right? This is looking maybe a little bit to the future, but we're not going to know the roles that are coming up. Nobody would have predicted prompt engineer before November 2022, right? So like,
I agree.
The deeper we go into this is going to continue to evolve and grow. And again, it's the whole like roles themselves will go away, right? Just like a telephone operator. Right. The phone
switchboard.
That's phone booth operator. I was going to say, but that's not a thing. But roles get augmented, right? New roles come up, like this says, as a result of that. So it's not like it's a net loss.
Yeah, we'll put a link to this post because I thought it was really insightful because he talks about all these AI roles, but then he classifies them from emerging roles versus must-have roles. And the must-have roles are, prompt engineer, ML engineer, AI ethicist, head of AI. So those are really cool. And then the emerging ones are the model validator, the knowledge engineer, and the decision engineer. So those aren't roles that had even really been thought of. And they're actually a pretty cool responsibilities and implications. So all to say, this is not obviously a comprehensive view of like what jobs will be either created or lost with AI, but this is more in the space, if you're technologically inclined and you want to find yourself a new space in this sector, there are lots of new opportunities for you.
So, and I think another note we have here kind of related to this is that it's not replacing roles, it's rewriting the org chart. And I think we are going to start seeing agents as staff. Right?
Yeah.
You will, quote unquote, manage agents, employ agents, right? You might have 10, 12 agents underneath you doing a lot of the work that you were doing on your own, allowing you to do things that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah. In fact, we could start we can end where we started this conversation with the meeting this morning, Fundraising AI, because again, Shannon McCracken, because I debriefed with her later today, she said at her table, I don't know, were you at her table?
Mm-mm.
Okay. She said that a conversation came up of like, well, in 10 years, like, how many more employees do you have? And the person said, well, human or synthetic. And she was like, huh. Yeah, because like in her mind, like we still have the bias that employees are human, right?
Yeah.
But it's an absolute fair question to your point, is that we don't have to hire one for one. I mean, we can offload mundane tasks to bots, still have all of our humans in the loop, but also doing amazing things. And hopefully, in my dream with all this, in 10 years, if I had to answer the question, like, if everything goes right in the world of AI, what does 10 years look like? It looks like every single person, people that have never made a donation in their life, are now finding themselves with an organization that becomes such an incredible part of their life. And so that we really see a huge net increase in generosity overall because of AI. And so that's what I hope in 10 years. That's why I wake up every day, fight the good fight. I know it's like, hard and there's lots of things that we have to be mindful of, but I do feel that, AI again is the only scalable solution to really promote generosity at scale.
Agreed. I agree.
All right. Anything else?
I just looked it up. Robots.
Yeah.
There's now a humanoid robot for under $6,000. So they're coming as well.
I mean, I know you want to be the first one on your block. I mean, in fairness, you don't have that many people on your block. But I did talk to a person today, by the way, and on this, is that he bought a robotic mower.
Did he?
And said it's absolutely amazing.
I know.
Yeah, he lives 20 minutes away from me. So he said so many people drive down the street, stop, and take video of his robotic mower that goes around and mows his lawn.
I'm trying to convince my wife.
I mean, pretty awesome. All right, everyone. This is a fun episode of Fundraising AI Podcast. Actually, we probably got through about 25% of the things that we wanted to talk about. But I did feel like we covered a lot of ground, and I also didn't want to go too deep into the next phase of some of the progression of AI. So we'll do that on the next episode, and then, have a lot more fun stuff to share.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for listening.
All right, take care, everyone.